Greetings Earthlings. We've been back on the road with Ocean Mike, exploring the ocean and climate emergency for COP26. We've been in store in Edinburgh, the Scottish outpost of Finisterre. We've been on the streets of Glasgow with climate protesters. And of course, many of you have sent in contributions from all over our watery planet. The ocean and waters of our planet really need to be front and centre right now in this next decade, where we have to take critical action on the climate and ecological emergency. The ocean has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to global heating to date. It's under immense stress from human activities, and let's not forget we can't live without a healthy ocean. The extraordinary complexity of life at sea creates at least 50% of the oxygen we breathe. It is the great blue beating heart of our planet. If we can protect and leave parts of the ocean alone, it can recover very, very fast and we can bring life back. And of course, this is much more than just the science, right? Think about the joy, wonder, awe, and extraordinary impacts the ocean, rivers, and waterways of this earth have on your life, on how you feel, on who you are. We can't buy those experiences. We are watery beings. We cannot thrive as a species without a thriving, living earth, and the ocean and waterways are a huge part of that. Human health and planetary health are intimately connected, as we're discovering. If we can bring life back to our ocean and rivers, we'll bring life back to our own selves and our wider human communities. So let's hear from some beautiful voices speaking for the ocean.
Picture a coral reef, an underwater multicoloured metropolis teeming with brightly coloured fish. It was snorkelling along a reef at 7 years old that ignited my fascination with reef ecosystems and my dream to become a marine biologist. Fast forward 20 years and my dream was coming true. I was on my way to Madagascar, travelling for nearly 3 days to reach the remote village of Andavadoc to study some of the most remote and understudied reefs on Earth. I could not have anticipated how important that trip would be, because I learned that coral reefs, the childhood fascination for me, represented the entire livelihoods of the fisher men and women of Andavadoc, in a region where 99% of protein comes from fish, and where the UN is declaring a climate change-caused famine. I realised that the global degradation of coral reefs caused by ocean warming and increasingly destructive storms in combination with overfishing and coastal development, the global degradation of coral reefs isn't just an ecological crisis, it's a humanitarian crisis, which is going to impact the people of Andavadoc and the 500 million other people around the world whose lives are embedded in the existence of coral reefs. So, for the people that are hundreds or thousands of miles away from Madagascar and from coral reefs, what can we do? Well, I think there's 3 essential things. The first one doesn't come as a surprise. We need to cut carbon emissions, because at the current rate of global warming, it's expected that reefs will decline by up to 90%. And so to protect reefs and the livelihoods of the people that rely on them the most, we need to limit global warming. Number 2, we need to stop subsidising industrial fishing. Industrial fishing in coastal waters of countries like Madagascar is emptying the oceans at an unsustainable rate, and it's leaving nothing for the fisher men and women who are fishing for their families and to trade locally. By reducing the amount of industrial fishing in those regions, we can not only replenish the fish stocks, but we can secure local food security in regions where we know that climate change is making hunger worse. And finally, as we continue to expand the areas of ocean protection around the world, we need to make sure that we put the voices of local communities at the forefront of decision making. We need to recognise that they have generations of knowledge in managing the ocean sustainably. We need to uplift them as stewards and guardians of the ocean. And we need to support them with policy, science and finance, because protecting ocean ecosystems could be one of the best investments we have in facing the injustices of climate change and poverty in coastal regions. But to scale this up in a fair and sustainable way, we need to make sure that we put the voices of those people that rely on the ocean the most at the forefront of our decision making.
My name is Yukaika and this is Marty. We're from Hawaii. And we came really far to share a message with everyone here at COP26 about the importance of the oceans, the importance of the islands. Right now, it's almost like they're, what the president of Palau said the other day. He said it's like they're asking to bomb our islands again, with not holding to a 1.5 degree level for climate change. It's disastrous for all of us in the Pacific. There's millions of people's lives at stake right now, and all of the livelihood of our oceans, which provides so much food and sustenance, and it's so key to our cultures in the Pacific. So we want to raise the awareness for everyone in the world to take care of our oceans, to tend to the islands, and we need climate justice for everyone.
My name is Rashma Kifugo. I work with the Mikoko Pamoja Carbon Offset Project in Kenya. That is a community-led mangrove restoration as well as conservation project located in the southern part of Kenya. Happy to be here today to contribute to the agenda on sustainability of our oceans. So blue carbon ecosystems have been termed as the key to the global climate crisis. Indeed they are, with their massive sequestration abilities among other contributions that they offer. The ocean resource is the greatest victim to man's actions, taking in tons of CO2, which impacts on its efficiency, with acidification, increase in the number of dead zones no longer new to our ears. Ignorance it may be, but yet again, action lies in our hands. It is now more evident that divided we fall, together we thrive. The ocean as living proof to this binds us, amidst all legislative and societal borders, showing that man isn't so different, but existing to serve a common goal. Our drive to sustainability doesn't always have to be of big dreams, but more of practical solutions, learning from local community actions and perspectives like Mikoko Pamoja, which I am honored to work with, a project true to creating community adaptation and resilience to climate change, whilst working to maintain or preserve the sustainability of our oceans, with mangrove ecosystems serving as the tool. Be an agent of change from wherever you are. The oceans need us. The oceans are us.
Hello, so I'm here today to raise awareness of bottom trawling. I think it's quite important that nobody touches my bottom, because when you bottom trawl, you not only indiscriminately catch and kill all sea life on the seafloor and destroy their habitats, but you also release a lot of blue carbon. And actually the blue carbon released by bottom trawling is equal to that of the aviation industry. So don't touch my bottom, okay?
My name is Murray Roberts and I work at the University of Edinburgh. Why do I care about the oceans? The oceans are the beating blue heart of our planet. Without the oceans, we wouldn't have a climate system at all. Most of the carbon that circulates around in our atmosphere is modulated through the oceans one way or the other. In fact, 25% of the carbon dioxide we've released since the Industrial Revolution has dissolved in the sea. This is changing the very nature of the ocean as we know it. It's getting more acidic. Over and above that, the oceans have absorbed 90% of the heating processes on the planet. Without that, we would be that much warmer. We are truly planet ocean. Now, as an ocean warms, it can't hold as much oxygen. Think of a warm bottle of Coke. Carbon dioxide fizzes off. The oxygen is being lost from our global ocean. We're seeing huge changes in the oceans right around the world. I work in the deep sea and open ocean. That's most of the planet. In water depths between 3,000 and 6,000 meters water depth, we figured out that if we raise the temperatures by just a couple of degrees, the animals will metabolize twice as quickly. They won't store as much carbon in the future. If we don't get a grip on this soon and we don't reduce carbon dioxide emissions, the potential of the ocean to help us to maintain life on Earth is going to be reduced. It's fundamental that the oceans are at the forefront of the negotiations and we don't forget that beating heart of our blue planet.
I think we all have to raise a voice for the ocean. It doesn't have the voice, but ocean is life and it's very important for us. Also, we raise voice for tunas because I think that food industry, especially fish industry, is that focusing too much in too few species, like 4 or 5, like tunas, sardinas, and no more. But people should be used to eat more different species of fishes. Otherwise, the few that are eaten are going to disappear in few years, and this is very bad for the environment and the ecosystem. So save tunas and love ocean.
My name's Jamie Marshall. I'm a mental health researcher at Edinburgh Napier University, and it's been my privilege over the last few years to really explore what we call blue health. That is how the oceans and our other waterways are so effective at helping us in terms of our own mental health, in terms of our physical health. And that's all well and good, and it's great that the public, it's great that policymakers, and it's great that the academic community are coming to the consensus that blue health is so important and has so much potential for us. But as humans, we have a worrying trait that when we find something that's good for us, something we can use, we tend to commodify it. We tend to treat it as something disposable, and we tend to really abuse it for what we can use it for. For all the positives of blue health, it's of the utmost importance that we don't do that to the oceans and to our other waterways. They can only have the positive effects we see in the science, in everyday life for us, if we look after them. It's so important going forward that world leaders, that academics, that everyone who uses the ocean, everyone who uses their rivers comes together to look after our waterways. Because if we don't look after our waterways can't look after us.
Don't shit the bath, an ocean poem. Don't shit the bath. Don't puke in the sink. Don't pee in the shower, just for an hour. Keep it clean, it's basic hygiene. The sea is a bath, full of old rubber ducks, and we're in it. You can't pull the plug though, so it just fills up with more and more stuff till there's no room for us. We're oceans apart, but in it together on this big round raft, this big beach ball. And it's all interconnected. There's no them and us. There's no you and me. There's no difference between land and sea, except the water's wetter, but it's all one thing, made of molecules and particles. It's all the same beach ball. So if you kick one bit, the rest goes flying. If you pollute the sea, then the fish start dying. When there's no fish, the water gets dirty and the coral goes grey and the air turns bad. And all the people who live on the land wring their hands and say they don't understand. So here's what it is, an explanation. The sea is drowning, it's waving, it's drowning, it's waving for help, it's waving goodbye, it's waving with kelp for now. It's waving and drowning, losing its breath, full of plastic straws and shopping bags and old toys and sweet wrappers and bits of nylon rope and these plastic things that hold beer cans together, like the penguin, like in the penguin cartoon. Sorry, it's gone a bit small. The ocean is an emotional response to our human state. No, wait, it's like the knock-on effect of what we think of ourselves. For real, our subconscious self-hatred and detachment is in the marina, held at bay, washed out to sea so far that we can ignore it till now. But now we all know you can't bury your feelings at sea, because at some point they'll wash up on the shore like a mark in a gangster movie. You know, the guy or the woman who gets knocked off around halfway through, all bloated and blue, surrounded by cops in disposable white boiler suits made of plastic that end up in the trash that gets swept out to sea and come floating back towards you and me and the plants and the trees and the air and the weather and the whole future of everything we know about being alive on this planet, which so far is the only one we actually can live on, unless you're Elon fucking Musk and Jeff Bezos and everybody else who really cares, apparently. Anyway, it always comes back, so don't shit in the bath, don't puke in the sink, don't pee in the shower for an hour. Just keep it clean, it's basic hygiene. But the ocean is a kind and cruel mistress, but she's looking pretty pissed at us right now, and like a forgiving friend who stays calm on the surface till they can't take anymore. It starts raging, it starts aging, and it comes to the shore because we treat her like a garbage can, basically. And we throw in the trash and we hope it'll all go away, but it's not a bin, it's our home. It's home to millions and trillions of living things that will die like immigrants off a capsizing boat, clinging for safety, for dignity, for opportunity, that will die like that kid on the beach in the Greece. Remember that kid? Like the whale full of polythene bags, and no, we can't save every life, every time, everywhere. We know that. We don't all have to be crusaders, persuaders, social media space invaders about this. It's not about taking the moral, ethical, environmental or political high ground. It's not about being seen to do good. It's none of that. It's none of that. That's not the point. It's our hood. It's our backyard. It's our doorstep. It's our own home. It's our bath, and we're in it. It's us. It's not separate. It's all the same. It's a romantic, nostalgic, ever-growing, ever-evolving soup. Oh, bloody hell. Ever-evolving soup of life. And we completely rely on its well-being for our own well-being. Polluting the ocean is like hitting a kid and wondering why there's violence on the streets. You did it. You made it happen. Action, reaction. So we can start taking care of ourselves, of each other, keeping our own house in order, tidy our room, our sock drawer. It's a state. It's a state of mind. It's a state of affairs. Tidy that cupboard under your stairs. A state of behaviour, a statement of fact, an emotional discipline. Once you know, you can't unknow it. 12 million tonnes of plastic a year get dumped in the ocean. Are we having a laugh? A giraffe weighs about a tonne. Imagine chucking 12 million giraffes in the sea every year. The water would only go up to your ears, they say. Not if the waves wash them away, but you know they turn up eventually, like the shit on the shoreline. I wonder how many giraffes fit in a bath. There's no way, they say. You can dump, you can litter, you can dispose, I suppose, but plastic does not decompose. It's not alive, but it never dies, so it lies and it gathers and strangles and grows till it shows up in the satellite images from space as islands of bags and toys and straws, the size of a city, a country, a planet. The size of our guilt, our shame, our blame, our fear, our greed, our anxiety, our need. So please don't shit the bath, don't puke in the sink, don't pee in the shower, just for an hour. Just keep it clean. It's basic hygiene. The ocean is magical and mystical. It's a bath and we're in it. So don't shit the bath.
Hello, my name is Seb Henniger and I'm from the University of Edinburgh. And so what I work on is the impact of climate change on marine ecosystems. And this takes me from the tropics all the way down to the deep sea. But the ecosystems which are of most concern to me are deep sea corals. And this is because they're at the forefront of environmental change, they're at the forefront of ocean acidification. Now these deep sea corals, just like their tropical counterparts, they create these massive three-dimensionally complex structures and they host huge amounts of biodiversity. And even sharks and rays lay their egg cases within these reef structures and they use them as a nursery ground. Now, with ocean acidification, which is from the increasing amount of carbon dioxide that we are releasing, it dissolves in the ocean, it reduces the pH, it makes it more acidic than it is now. Now, these deep sea corals, they live really deep. They go from 30 to 3,000 meters deep. And because they are so deep, they're at the forefront of this change. And they're at risk from dissolution of their skeletons. Now, these deep sea reefs, you've got the live coral sitting on top, and then underneath, you've got a huge amount of these dead coral skeletons supporting this entire framework, this coral city. Now, ocean acidification makes the foundation framework of these corals weaker, and what we're starting to see at reefs which are already right at the forefront of this environmental change is that the habitat's starting to crumble, the habitat's getting smaller, simpler, and it's less able to support all sorts of other marine life. So although these reefs are really deep and they're out of sight, we can no longer to just keep them out of mind any longer. So in order that we don't lose these habitats, these wonderful, vulnerable marine habitats going forward, we need to urgently reduce the carbon emissions that we are creating, reduce the amount of ocean acidification that's projected, and understand far more about how these reefs are going to change, what this means to the biodiversity, and how we can manage and conserve these habitats moving forward.
Hi, my name is Bee. I'm a sustainable design researcher concerned with the future of the seas. We benefit from the oceans for our health and well-being, but we are considering them as a resource rather than a part of our habitat. The pandemic in the past couple of years exposed social and personal vulnerabilities, demanding the need for communities to reconnect with nature and the sea. Being immersed in the sea with our body and our senses gives us new perspectives. We reconnect with ourselves and with nature on a deeper level, developing feelings of love towards it. This pushes us to change our behavior and habits to protect the sea. Experiencing the seas and the interaction with its wild animals can be life-changing. The importance of the seas for our survival and our well-being is too often undermined by exploitation and pollution. Each of us has the power to change this relationship, to become more caring towards the ecosystems that we interact with. There is a need to change our mindset from seeing the sea as a space to use and exploit to a relationship of care and kinship. Appreciating the richness that we have at our doorstep, feeling the sea closer and less unknown, can be a small step towards protecting it. As a woman, I also ask myself what it means to reclaim a feminine presence in the seas and rewriting the rules in a space historically seen as one for men to explore. Female bodies no longer want to be sirens' flesh to gaze at on sandy beaches. They are vessels to experience the world, create new ways of knowing the seas, the self and the environment, establishing a relationship of care and respect for the more than human. As a white Western woman, I also feel like I have a responsibility towards how the seas have been a means for colonialism to expand. The seas are me and you and us, together in a cycle of water that flows in and out of our bodies and our biosphere. This is our hydrocommons of shared responsibility and care. As 70% water, we belong to the seas by birth. Through embodied experiences of them, we can find new ways of knowing, new truth, and values to inform how we occupy our space on this planet in the years to come.
Hi, I'm Hamish. I'm a social documentary photographer and I'm interested in the environment as a whole as well as the oceans. My question is, what is the problem? Is it plastic waste? Is it sewage? Or is it something deeper? Is it our relationship with this environment that we are in? My dad never liked to have his head under the water or never liked to swim. And I always thought about that as a chance to dive into my fears and face them. And so I've got that perspective from my childhood of jumping into things like snowboarding, like skateboarding, like surfing, in the natural environment. And in 2012, I produced a book about the way I saw myself after a serious injury I'd suffered from 2004 when I broke my back snowboarding. I produced a photo book about the shadow self. It was a personal photographic view, a perspective, as it were, on the things that I'd gone through. And the point that I want to make in this very short time is that perspective is everything. It helps us to see what is possible. And so from that point, I've gone on to explore, using the camera as a tool, how I can connect with people, how I can understand what's going on in this crazy world, or what makes sense to me about the crisis that we're in. I think that the crisis that we're in is twofold. We have a general distrust of one another, which is a difficult situation, and we also have the climate crisis, which is, only getting worse unless we find solutions. Humans are incredible at collaborating with one another, and it is this energy that I try to bring to the photography that you see here. My work with Plastic Whale in Amsterdam, the people that are change makers, Oliver at Skateistan, Smithsonian Institute, SkatePal, consumerism as a whole, and even recent clients that I've worked with at my consultancy, Penny Black, like Kinetec, which produce a construction brick, 90% recycled construction brick. There are solutions out there, we can find them, so find the way, find the people.
Back in November of 2017, I was at somewhat of a turning point in my life. I'd just come back from travelling around Asia and living in Spain, and I was about to start a new job in London. However, I started to feel quite strange. I was really tired, really thirsty, and I was losing quite a lot of weight, so I went for a blood test at the doctor's. It was at this point that they informed me that my blood sugar levels were 4 times what they should have been. And after 2 days of testing, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And sitting in that hospital bed and being instructed that I would now need to inject 5 times a day, and that I would have to constantly check my blood sugar levels to make sure I wasn't going too high or wasn't going too low, it completely turned my world upside down. Being diabetic is a full-time job, so partnering this with also starting a new life in the city, it put a real strain on my mental health. Keeping my levels consistent was a real struggle, and I could never seem to inject the right amount or keep myself in my target range. You might be thinking, well, what has this got to do with the ocean? Well, about 3 months after I was diagnosed, I had a surfing trip planned with some friends. I was really nervous because I still couldn't maintain my levels properly, and we'd be really far away from any hospitals if something were to happen. Nevertheless, we got in and we got straight in the surf, and I immediately had this unerring feeling that everything was okay. I almost forgot about the diabetes, and I was completely immersed in the moment. After 3 days or so that we were down by the sea, I noticed that my levels had never been so consistent. And it was in that moment that I realised just how much an effect being by the ocean had had on me, and the physical benefits were there in the data from when I was testing. To this day, my control over my diabetes has never been as strong as when I'm by the ocean. Blood sugar levels can be triggered by all sorts of things, whether that be eating, stress, temperature, even inconsistencies in routine. And much like the waves in the ocean, it can be rough and sometimes it can be smooth. But I gain a lot of peace in just looking out into the offing and knowing that it will be okay, because that's what the ocean made me realise. And that's also partly why I'm so passionate about now protecting these amazing blue spaces, not only for their natural beauty, but also because I've experienced their healing power firsthand. And it shouldn't take an event like mine to understand that in order to reap these benefits, we also have a responsibility to protect these areas as well.
Hi, I want to take you on a bit of a journey, a personal journey for me really, and a bit of a reflection on the last 10 years of my life really working with seagrass ecosystems. 10 years ago, I met an inspiring lecturer at Swansea University, and he introduced me to a lesser known habitat, which was seagrass. Now, I'd previously worked as a secondary school teacher in central Birmingham, been off working as a diving instructor over in Asia, and despite being both a scientist by training, a biologist, and also by being a diving instructor, I'd never heard of this habitat. And it struck me that seagrass meadows were really an undervalued habitat. They weren't really part of the marine conservation conversation. And really, we wanted to set out on a journey to change this. And really this is a story about speaking up for seagrass as part of that ocean ecosystem. So 8 years ago, we set up a small NGO in Swansea. Swansea is a town that's got the unfair reputation of being a graveyard for ambition. But for us, we had great ambitions. We wanted to make sure that seagrass was right up there in the agenda. And today, 10 years on from our first meeting and 8 years on from founding Project Seagrass, seagrass really is becoming mainstreamed in the marine conservation conversation. I've just literally come back from Glasgow, from COP26, and it's amazing to see seagrass front and centre there, being championed as a nature-based solution. Now, nature-based solutions come in all shapes and sizes, but the reason why they're called nature-based solutions is because they're really designed to harness nature, to bring back nature, to give us back everything that nature already gives us. So seagrass meadows, to take an example, they're fantastic carbon stores. They sequester carbon out of the atmosphere. They're juvenile habitat for many species of commercially important fish. They're havens of biodiversity. They buffer ocean acidification. They reduce pathogen transfer in our seas. We need these ecosystems. If we don't have these ecosystems, then our time as a species is limited.
Hello, I'm Henley Spears, and these are my two daughters, and we all care a lot about the ocean. In fact, I'm an underwater photographer, so I get to see more of the ocean than perhaps most of us. But even if you haven't been to the ocean lately or you haven't seen much of it, it still very much matters to all of us. So you can thank every other breath that you take to the oceans and the oxygen they produce. And the thing is, all of that water, it's like a veil.
And the whales like to eat krill.
Sorry, whales like to eat what?
Krill.
Whales like to eat krill, yes. But sometimes it's hard to see the whales eating krill or other things because of all that water. And we forget what's going on in the oceans and we forget what they're doing for us.
Yeah, and medium fish medium fish eat smaller fish, and the bigger fish eat the medium fish.
Yes, there's a whole food chain out there in the ocean, and there's many things which are quite scary today. I see a lot of beauty when I go underwater, but there's also things which scare me, and I'm often asked which is the one which scares me the most. And people are thinking perhaps I would choose overfishing or plastic pollution. But the truth is, whilst I'm extremely worried about both of those things, what scares me the most is climate change and its impact on the ocean and our globe. Because it feels so big. It feels like it's very hard for me as an individual or perhaps the people I know to make any effective change to that. And that's, I think, where COP26 is really a big, big moment in our history of humanity.
When we come to Groundswell, we sit in circle and do breath work and come into the same space on the beach, and we have surf journals to fill in, so we're checking in what's alive in our head and our heart and our body. And then we think about what do we want to leave on the beach and what do we want to find in the ocean. So anything that's not serving, just letting it go and leaving it in the sand. So that's like the big picture and for that present moment. And then what do we want to find in the sea? So on any day it might be something like peace or calm, or it might be like stoke adrenaline, and then just knowing what you're wanting to find in life and looking for that in the sea, finding your space to do that. But we go in with other people as well, so if something comes up for you as you're going in, we've got someone to talk to about that. If it's quite a scary situation, you feel like this is scary going into the sea, you've got someone right by you there to help you tune in, listen to what's surrounding you, really tuning into your senses, tuning into what you can see and feel, and being really present with that. And if you're in an uncomfortable position, maybe go into a different place, maybe it's sitting on the sand for a bit, and then putting that into a real life situation. If you're in a situation that you feel awkward or uncomfortable with, just being able to go back to your breath or back to your senses and sort of emotionally regulating yourself. And for me to be able to personally work through this journey with Groundswell, and to be, if I'm ever in a situation where I don't feel comfortable in the sea, being able to have those regulation techniques has been such a beautiful thing. Instead of feeling scared, whether it's the size of the waves or the crowd or whatever it is, something going on in my head, then bringing myself back and having that gratitude for having like all my limbs and being able to get to the beach and yeah, just being like stoked with all the beautiful community that we have, and just I really want to share that and share the healing and share the learning and the love that I get from the sea out wider to other people, and then having those tools that surround it like movement and breath work and journaling and the love of nature, so that people who don't have that regularly in their life can bring that in as a morning practice or a daily practice and be able to regulate even when you're not at the groundswell sessions or even if you're not surfing. So yeah, it kind of like flows through who I am, and I love to share that and feel very lucky and abundant and grateful for this life with the ocean.
Walking along Guyanese coastline, you have the ocean out there, the Atlantic Ocean, and behind me you have one of the most amazing trees in the world. That is the black mangrove that is able to grow because of its superpower. And that superpower is this, these nodules, these pneumatophores. These little roots that stick out of the sandy mud enable it to breathe when it's completely inundated by salt water. And then you might ask, well, how on earth is a tree supposed to survive in salt water? Trees can't live in salt water. Well, they do that by sucking up the salt water and excreting the salt through the leaves. So if you lick a leaf, it's actually really salty, which is remarkable. So this impossible forest is absolutely amazing because it protects the coastal environment from erosion. It sequesters carbon 5 times faster than any other tree. They provide, with the root systems in the environment, the nursery for little fish to grow up in, protected there in the roots from being predated on by the bigger fish. So they can grow up safe in here, head out to sea, sustain local fish populations, which feeds local communities, essential source of protein, supports local industry, the fishing. And one simple thing we can all do is don't use single-use plastics, because they end up washing up here on the mangroves, covering the roots of the baby saplings as they're growing, and suffocate them, and that wipes them out. So we can all get involved, we can all do our bit. But there is my simple little introduction to what is a very, very remarkable, extraordinary superhero tree, the mangrove.
So I'm reading this on behalf of a surfer from the Wave Project. Hi, my name is Zoe and I'm 13 years old. I love the ocean, I respect the ocean, I need the ocean. It calms me and helps me with anxiety. I feel happy and free when I'm in the sea. It is powerful, magical, mesmerizing yet fragile. I love surfing the waves and scuba diving, exploring the fascinating underwater world. We are in a climate crisis that affects all living beings on Earth, which is why it's more important than ever before that we protect our oceans. If we don't do something about it now and keep carrying on as the usual, the oceans will die, then we will die. The ocean can exist without us humans, but we cannot exist without the oceans. They are the life support system on Earth, and about 80% of the oxygen we breathe comes from the ocean. I worry constantly about how much we are killing our oceans, from overfishing, pollution, climate change, just to name a few. We kill innocent, defenseless animals and destroy ecosystems. For what? Greed. We need to solve this before it's too late. We need to listen to the science and do our bit to save the ocean. It's true we need system change, but to get that, we need individual change. By stopping the disposable society, we need to reduce, reuse, and recycle. We need to consume less seafood and animal products, and better yet, switch to a plant-based diet. We all need to respect and look after our oceans and marine life. Together we can save the oceans.
Out from the blue she comes. Asleep, standing up, she surfs the world's lungs. A constantly shifting liquid landscape filled with savage and beautiful energy. Another world of wonder, keeping us safe from the worst environmentally. Biological pumping, CO2 munching, biodiversity functioning at its best. Millions of species rely on the oceans, not only humanity. And at the moment, we're not doing enough. Pumping our sewage into the ocean is insanity. As she and we stand and admire, we have to do more, form an endless human choir, singing songs for the ocean, shouting louder for the sea.
So you asked why protect the ocean, and I guess my answer is, how could you not? I could give you a zillion scientific, practical reasons, like we can't even breathe without it, and it's the best climate solution that we've got. But I keep coming back to, how could we not? It's our everything. It's our home, it's our sanctuary, it's our playground, it's our life source. Maybe everyone just forgot. And so what if we reimagined protecting, restoring, regenerating this epic blue space? What if that version of the future was better than anything we've ever experienced before? And what if it started with just loving the ocean fiercely and remembering that we actually belong to one another? So maybe we just stop and breathe and reconnect to the water again. And of course, remember to play outside and experience the magic and the awe and the wonder. And feel alive and humble and grateful all at the same time. And then find your way to help, the thing that you can do, your ocean story. Because at the end of the day, how could you not?
Oceans are hope. We depend on the oceans to keep us afloat. Our fossil fuel engine is starting to smoke and we're running out of trees to patch up our boat. The oil is leaking, the ocean's on fire, our forests are burning while profits grow higher. The ice caps are shrinking, and in this game of whodunit, the people responsible VIPs to the summit. They filled our waters with plastic and leftover nets. Endless production, one use and forget. They sold us a lie, and we were happy to buy, but generations later still turning blind eyes. It's embarrassing. Something produced to be packaging, sold as protection, ends up so damaging. What happened to respect for this planet's inhabitants? The ship we inherited to pass on to our grandkids. The diversity beneath, the secrets of the deep. They won't be here much longer if we keep upping the heat. Beauty's all around us, swimming through the 7 seas. If only we took notice while it's still here to be seen. From a Mako's lightning speed to a jellyfish's ease. Floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. Life here is born to fight, survive at the extremes, but the ocean's on the ropes and we have no referee. The teamwork shown by a pod of orcas is proof intelligence has been here long before us. Stolen from the seas for the world to see, dolphins jumping for their freedom for extortionate fees. Humpbacks blowing bubbles that are better than our nets. Theirs leave no trace, ours get swallowed up instead. Sustainable fishing, perfected by a master, but when we try and copy, we keep pasting a disaster. Instead of locking onto our target and making sure no collateral damage is swept up from the darkness, we roll the dice on life, stretch our nets wide and suck the ocean floor like we're vacuuming a carpet. But then again, the saying goes, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. But once you teach man to fish, he won't stop till he depletes the food chain. But that's the modern way. Take and don't replace, only think about the profits, not the sacrifices made. It's just the modern age. Take and don't replace. Never think about the process, just eat what's on your plate. Are we even still human, or have we become part machine? Empathy traded for efficiency and greed, respect for the land chopped down with the trees, and the love for the ocean melted into the sea. We forced the circle of life into our man-made squares, suffocating nature while it gasped for air. But now the walls are closing in on us, man-made by design. Need to think outside our box, cause we're running out of time. Listen to a shell nowadays, I hear ... dash, 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 ... Cause the ocean doesn't wave no more, it's drowning, shouting save our seas, someone please, save our souls.
So massive kudos to everyone who participated in this latest chapter of Ocean Mike and for speaking up for the ocean. Keep them coming, keep talking, keep connecting, and let's bring life back to the ocean, rivers and waterways of our blue planet. Until next time, peace and out.